Okay, this is a video I'm making showing you how to get pistons that are out of a frozen block, they're just seized in there and nothing is getting them out. I watched a lot of stuff on YouTube, and they showed people with like a chemical you can pour in it and let it sit there for like 3-6 days. And of course they're in prime ideal conditions. They're in a shop. The crank is no longer in the engine, and they got it on an engine stand they can spin around. I seen another one where they are simply taking rags and soaking them with gasoline and transmission fluid and putting it in there and cooking it, and then the guy still couldn't get it out. He got finally in the end using a big giant sledge, he got it out. Well, this motor you're looking at was sitting approximately 40 years. It's an old Pontiac 389. Still got the transmission attached, the crank's still attached. All the pistons are up, and I'm going to show you what I did, and it was like a miracle. And I had 7 pistons out, and that thing still wouldn't turn, but I'll show you in a second what I'm talking about. This project all started long ago. I bought a 59 Pontiac, restored it, and it was like kind of a, it's not a daily driver, but I could use it as one. And then I found this other 59 Pontiac that was totally, absolutely shot, and I bought it and cut it in half so I could have it, like a custom trailer to pull around with my 59. And this is the trailer. I haven't really been taken out because of all this, pandemic stuff. There isn't really shows going on, and so things have changed. It's been the one show, and I did get a trophy, but that's what this is all about. And here is the other half, that one day I got this crazy dream that I might splice it back together, and what you'd have is a 2-seater. And literally like a little Corvette. I might try to show you a picture of what it would look like, but I've gotten off subject, and we're here to find out how to get pistons out of an engine that's been sitting for 40 years and they won't come out. And I found this by accident, and it was like, wow. And so I want you to see what I did, and so here goes. When that thing was in there, even when I had every piston up, but just one was still in there, with this breaker bar, it wasn't budging with just one piston left. Now, you've seen these guys, like I said, they're doing all sorts of things. I was doing the same thing. I was using this, and I was using this. You can see it's mushroomed out. And I'm in there. I'm working them from, I guess you could say the inside to pop them out. And, they weren't coming out. And these pistons, the rods, they're not budging. This thing was really locked up. And one thing I want you to all know, this was cool, because I got the crank still in there. So the crank's still in there, and because of that, these here, you can't take the end caps off of some of them. And so you're thinking, crap, how am I going to get all these end caps off with, when you can't turn it? And I was down to the last 2 pistons. I think it was the number 1 piston, and I believe the number 2 piston. Yeah, those are the last 2 to come out. I'm pretty sure that was the last 2 to come out. But once you get a bunch of the pistons out, you can actually, going through here, get at the bolts or the nuts that are holding the last 2 end caps in. So don't worry about that. You can get at them. But how did I get them out? And this is what I found out. I had this cranked up in the air, so this motor was standing up like that, and I'm in there pounding them. And then I got an idea. And this is what you do. Now I took sandpaper and I cleaned that out and cleaned them out, you know, so that when the pistons start coming up, it wouldn't be running, you know. I was trying to make it as smooth a coming out process as possible. But this was the trick. This, you turn this on. I don't know if you can see that flame or not. And you heat that wall. You know, the guys that are using the rag with some gasoline on it, that rag is, the heat's all coming up out. You couldn't cook a marshmallow probably barely on it. With this, you're getting serious heat on the cylinder wall. So that cylinder wall is going to expand. And then, now picture this happening, but the piston's still down in there, you know? Say the piston's up at about there. And I literally, it only took about 5-6 minutes of doing this. But I had some I put penetrating oil in there. So the penetrating oil is pooled on top of the piston as I'm applying the heat. And as I was applying the heat, you actually could see after maybe 4 or 5 minutes, this thing's about empty. It was going a lot better. You could see after about 4 or 5 minutes, the penetrating oil was starting to seep down. The ones that I took out prior to doing this, when they finally came out after beating on them for so long, they were still just dry, you know, around the, you know, where the piston groove, the ring grooves are, it was all dry, bone dry. This stuff was not getting through. But when you use a torch, you know, the heat here is very intense. It's enough to cause that cylinder to open up enough that this is going to get through. And then when I went in there using this, and I guess you could call this a drift, whatever you want to call it, and started hearing, poof, right up. I was like, man, why didn't I figure that out when I started with the first piston? I didn't do it till I got to the last piston, which was piston number 1. And that's it in a nutshell. And you'll see a little example. So